Okay, so what if I told you there's a microscopic parasite that might be living inside of you right now? It's one of the most just crazy successful organisms on the entire planet, and yet most of us have never even heard of it. And when I say successful, I am not kidding. We're talking about a staggering number. Researchers think that up to 1 in 3 people around the globe is carrying this parasite for their entire life. And here's the kicker. The vast majority have absolutely no clue. So for years, the thinking was, okay, so what? It's pretty much harmless for most healthy people. But that's starting to change. New science is uncovering this really startling connection, a hidden link between this invisible guest and how we age. All right, let's get into the details. The culprit we're talking about, its name is Toxoplasma gondii, and you can think of it as a true master of stealth. It's this tiny single-celled parasite that is incredibly good at setting up a permanent home right inside our bodies. So the parasite is Toxoplasma gondii, and the infection you get from it, that's called toxoplasmosis. And it's important to know this isn't a virus, it's not a bacteria, it's a tiny protozoan that has basically perfected the art of survival. So the big question is, how does this thing get around so well? I mean, how does it end up in so many people? Let's trace the journey of this little microscopic traveler, see how it gets from the wild into our homes and, well, into us. Well, believe it or not, it all starts with cats. Yep, domestic cats, wild cats, they're what's called the parasite's primary host. That's a fancy way of saying it's the only place where Toxoplasma can, well, reproduce sexually. And get this, a single infected cat can shed millions of these infectious little parasite eggs into the environment. And this is how it makes the jump to us. You know, a lot of people think, oh, it's just about cat litter, but it's way more than that. Those parasite eggs can get into the soil and water. From there, animals like pigs or lamb might ingest them. And if we eat that meat undercooked, bam, we can get infected. It can also spread through contaminated water or even, and this is tough, from an infected mother to her baby during pregnancy. Okay, so let's say it's in. The parasite is now inside you. What happens next? Well, this is where the story takes a really interesting turn. Because what it does next, it depends completely on how strong your immune system is. You can really think of it as having two completely different faces. In a healthy person with a strong immune system, the infection is usually nothing. Maybe you get some mild flu-like symptoms, maybe you don't feel a thing. Your body controls the parasite, but here's the thing, it doesn't kill it. It just forces it to go dormant, hiding in little cysts in your brain and muscles for life. But if your immune system is weak, those dormant cysts can wake up. And when they do, it can cause really severe, even fatal diseases. So that's the key, right? The silent guest suddenly becomes a huge threat when your body's defenses are down. We're talking about people who are elderly, individuals with AIDS, cancer patients going through chemo, or really anyone taking drugs that suppress the immune system. For these folks, a reactivated infection is no joke. It can lead to incredibly serious brain and eye infections. And for decades, that was pretty much the whole story. You know, harmless for most, but dangerous for a few. End of chapter. But recently, scientists started asking a really fascinating new question. Okay, but what are the more subtle, long-term effects of carrying this thing around for, 50, 60, even 70 years? And wow, the answers they're starting to find are kind of a big deal. It really boils down to this. New studies are suggesting a link between high levels of Toxoplasma antibodies and something called frailty in seniors. Basically, the harder your immune system seems to be fighting to keep this parasite in check over the decades, the more frail you might become. And let's be clear, when we say frailty, we're not just talking about feeling a little tired or old. No, this is a specific medical state. It's marked by things like exhaustion, losing muscle mass, and just general physical weakness. It's a really big deal in aging because it's a major sign of vulnerability. And when you look at the data, you see this pretty clear link. The more antibodies you have, meaning the stronger your immune response is, the more likely you are to have symptoms of frailty. It's like the constant, lifelong battle to keep this parasite locked down might just be slowly wearing the body out over time. And it probably doesn't stop with just physical weakness. This constant, low-grade immune fight could be feeding into what's called inflammaging. You know, that chronic, simmering inflammation that's connected to so many diseases of aging. And there's more. Some studies have even linked it to declines in memory and, get this, subtle changes in our behavior and psychology. So yeah, this silent guest, turns out it might not be so silent after all. Okay, So, after hearing all of that, I know what you're probably thinking. The big question is, what can we actually do about it? How can we protect ourselves and try to avoid getting infected in the first place? Well, the good news here is that prevention is actually pretty straightforward. It all boils down to some basic hygiene and food safety. So, number one, wash your hands really well, especially after you've been gardening, handling raw meat, or dealing with cat litter. Number two, cook all your meat to a safe temperature. That'll kill any of the dormant cysts. Also, be careful with unfiltered water. And finally, and this is really important, if you're pregnant or immunocompromised, you should definitely have someone else take over the cat litter duties. This whole story about toxoplasma and aging is such a powerful reminder that our bodies are these complex ecosystems, and we're just scratching the surface of understanding them. It really makes you wonder if so many of us are carrying this parasite for our entire lives. Just think about what other hidden stories, what other secrets are just waiting to be told by the other silent guests living inside us.